Japan Coach, ways to make living and working in Japan the amazing experience it should be.
My name is Paul Duran. I am an intercultural coach, and I live in Japan. I've been in Japan for about the last 10 years, more or less. My job is primarily coaching people who are business people who are coming into Japan from mostly the US or Europe. And also I coach Japanese who are planning to live abroad, also mostly in the US and Europe. So I've come to learn a lot about some of the similarities and differences between Japanese culture and Japanese business culture and other cultures around the world. Now, first of all, let me just say that treating anything in a broad strokes manner is going to be a problem right from the outset. Um, that's true of any culture. And the fact is, all cultures have similarities and differences, but more importantly, inside of each culture, every individual has similarities and differences. And so that I think is important to keep in mind as you look at different cultures, different perspectives, different business manners, etc. So let me just point that out from the outset. But what I thought I would do is create this video series talking specifically about some of the points that are different or maybe similar to different cultures in respect to Japanese culture, but also Japanese business manner. And I just wanted to point out before I go any further that the image behind me um, looks like, or it might look to you like it comes from the famous Aomori Nebuta Matsuri, but actually it doesn't. This is from a local Matsuri near Nagoya, in the small town of Kariya, and this is from the Kariya Mando Matsuri. It's kind of similar. Basically, paper floats are made in various shapes of battles and people and warriors, etc. But it's really, really amazing. It's fascinating to look at, and I really recommend. The Kariya Mando Matsuri is in August of every year, and it's really a very local festival, not famous. There's not a huge amount of people showing up, but man, is it fun, and it's really interesting, and it really captures some of the essence of traditional Japanese life in a modern context. So I highly recommend the Kariya Mando Matsuri. But moving ahead, I wanted to talk in this video about the concept of Aisatsu. It's kind of the beginning point, right? How you greet people. Should you greet people? What are some acceptable greetings? And let me just say that the word Aisatsu, I just said it, means greeting, salutation, etc. But it probably has a little bit of a different nuance because Aisatsu is really about acknowledging the other person and showing that you're sort of aware of them, that you're cognizant of them, that you're respecting their space. So that's an Aisatsu. And so when you say hello in the Japanese context, there's kind of a lot that goes along. Maybe we could say that that's true in other cultures as well, but it certainly is true in Japanese culture. So missing a hello is really kind of a slight in some cases, and so you really want to make sure that you're aware of other people around you and that you're acknowledging their presence. This is one of the key elements, I think, of Japanese culture. Being aware of the people around you, noticing them, showing some respect for them, showing some awareness of them, etc. And Aisatsu is a great way to do this. So it's in typical American office. We might just sneak into our office without saying anything to anybody. This wouldn't be really respectable in the Japanese context. Really, you want to seek people out and say good morning to them. Ohayo gozaimasu. Yeah, sure. Not everybody says it quite that clearly. I've been in offices where people just say "zus, zus," and but that's good enough. You know, the fact is that it isn't about how you say it. It's about that you say it, and And so there's nothing rude or derogatory about using abbreviated or grunted Ohio gozaimasu. Not at all. It's absolutely acceptable. And then there's the more casual way of just saying Ohio. Um, that certainly is casual. I'm going to talk a little bit about the use of casual and formal language later, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But I will say that generally speaking, in an office context, if you're going to use the Japanese word, Ohio gozaimasu is probably the safe bet. If you meet a kid on the street, you're probably going to want to be more casual. You say Ohio to the elementary school kid you pass by. But in the office, Ohio gozaimasu is a safe way to go. But it's okay to say good morning, absolutely, or use whatever language greeting that you'd like to use. The point is saying it. The point is not really what you say. It's that you say it. That's Aisatsu. That's the importance of Aisatsu. Another element of Aisatsu that I think is very interesting as compared to an American office is what you say to each other during the course of the day. Um, in the typical American office, I noticed that you pass by people several times in a given day. And you say, good morning, how are you? How's the day going? And then pretty soon you don't say anything to them anymore because you're just tired of saying, and it's a little bit uncomfortable even because you're passing by them, you're kind of acknowledging them. Maybe you give them a little nod or something, but you don't have anything to say. It's a little uncomfortable. Well, the Japanese Aisatsu system is kind of taking care of that because every time you run into somebody, now granted, it doesn't mean if you run into them 100 times and they sit next to you and you don't have to do it in that situation. But if there's somebody that you run into 5 or 6 times a day from a different office or from a different area, you might say something like "Otsukaresama desu." Otsukaresama desu. If I translate that literally to English, well, it's difficult to translate, but it basically means you must be tired from all the hard work that you're doing. Um, it's interesting because a lot of Japanese will translate it that way, and then they'll use it in English, and I'll say, well, that doesn't work well because for an English speaker, for a native English speaking culture, a lot of times you must be tired is kind of it's kind of a negative thing. Well, why why do you think I'm tired? What am I showing tiredness? So we don't like to show our weaknesses, so we don't like to be sort of called out on them. Well, that's not actually what's happening, obviously, with this Japanese Aisatsu. It really is more saying, wow, you've been doing so much work. Of course you're tired. I respect all the work that you're doing. How could you not be tired from all that you're doing? That's a lot to read into it. Of course, most Japanese don't walk by and think that every time they say that. But the point is, it just becomes the polite, respectful thing to say to somebody else. And so no, it means that, but yet it doesn't mean that. What it really means on a day-to-day basis is, oh, I see somebody, I better say this to them. That's what it means. But it's important to say, and it shows again the appreciation that you have for the other person and the existence of the other person. And so this is really part of that whole office experience. And then when you leave, you should always point out the fact that you're leaving. You usually will say something like osaki desu, osaki ni shitsurei shimasu, osaki ni. These basically all mean I'm going to leave before you. So forgive me for my rudeness if I'm really polite about it. Osaki ni shitsurei shimasu means forgive me, I'm rude, I'm leaving before you. But osaki desu is really more like, okay, I'm taking off, I'll see you later kind of feeling. But it's important to say. And if you don't say it, people will kind of feel like you snuck off, you sneaked off, I should say, and then you didn't respect them by telling them that you're leaving. So there's a lot of this sort of just the sort of fundamental respect element just existing in these basic Aisatsu ideas. And so as you work in a Japanese environment, or perhaps you work with Japanese coworkers in your own environment, this is something to keep in mind, something to be aware of. it's a nice thing. You know, it's really something that is intended to be a good thing. It's intended to be polite. It's intended to be kind, and it might seem bothersome at times. Maybe it is, but the fact is, it really can, you know, be observed as a polite way to interact with other people if you're willing to take that on. So that is the meaning of Aisatsu in Japanese culture. I think it's important to remember just greeting someone, recognizing them through the course of the day, and then pointing out that you're taking off. Sure, there's different levels. We'll get into all of that, I suppose, to some degree later, although this is obviously not a Japanese class, so we're not going to get too deep into any of that stuff. But I will talk about politeness and that sort of thing as we go. But this is just really about Aisatsu. So I hope that has maybe cleared up a couple of questions in your mind, or at least sort of made you a little bit more aware of the Aisatsu in Japanese, or the greetings, the saying hello. Keep watching my channel here, and I'll keep adding more and more of these things about specifically business in Japan, and how to interact with Japanese on a business level. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them down in the chat. You can also visit me at pauldurant.com and leave questions or comments there as well. Would really love to hear from you. I'd love to know what I can do to help you. So thanks very much again. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.